Did you know that your good girl complex is literally making you sick? I am not being dramatic or trying to scare you for views. There is a massive body of research, including studies from institutions like Harvard, linking the chronic suppression of needs and the compulsive urge to please others with autoimmune issues. Your body is quite literally attacking itself because you are too afraid to attack a boundary. You are trading your white blood cells and your long-term health for a thank you from people who often don't even value you. Today, we are ending the era of being the convenient woman. We are becoming inconvenient. We are becoming the problem. And ironically, that is exactly how you start winning in life. Let's get one thing straight. Being good is usually just a code word for being easy to manage. When people say that a girl is so nice, what they often mean is that she is a doormat who never makes them feel uncomfortable. A convenient person is someone who fits into the cracks of everyone else's life, filling their gaps while leaving herself empty. An inconvenient woman, however, is authentic. She has edges. She has a no that actually works. We are moving from being a background character in everyone else's story to being the absolute main character of our own. This isn't about becoming a villain. It's about becoming a person. If you are wondering if you have good girl syndrome, look at your everyday behaviors. Do you laugh off jokes that actually hurt your feelings just to keep the vibe light? Are you always available, dropping everything the moment a guy like Clive or Dave texts you at 11 p.m.? Do you feel the need to provide a 15-paragraph dissertation every time you have to cancel plans or say no to an extra shift at work? That isn't kindness. That is a survival strategy masquerading as manners. It is a layer of manipulation. Because deep down, you are trying to control how people perceive you so they won't abandon you. You weren't born this way. You were trained. As a child, being convenient was likely how you obtained love, or at least how you avoided the headache of a stressed out, unavailable, or volatile parent. If you were quiet, you were safe. If you were helpful, you were valuable. But you are a grown woman now. You don't need to perform for your dinner anymore. You can afford to be a little loud. You can afford to be the one who says, "Actually, I don't like that restaurant," or "No, I'm to stay home tonight." In your relationships, you might think that if you do everything for a man, he will eventually realize how amazing you are and value you more. This is one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. In reality, if you do everything for someone, they don't think you are a hero. They just think they deserve that level of service. They take it for granted. Think about the difference between a Ferrari and a shop that is always having a 90% off sale. A Ferrari is expensive, it is temperamental, it is incredibly hard to get, and it doesn't advertise on every street corner. People treat it with awe because of its scarcity. Then there is the bargain shop with a guy outside shouting, "Come in, please, everything must go." Which one do you respect more? Stop putting yourself on the clearance rack and wondering why people treat you like a cheap substitute. Value comes from scarcity and boundaries, not from being the person who is always there to pick up the pieces. Part of being inconvenient is having an actual opinion. Nothing kills your aura faster than having no point of view. When someone asks where you want to eat and you say, "Oh, wherever you want," or "I don't mind," you think you are being easygoing. In reality, you are being boring. You are becoming a beige wall. Inconvenient women have a worldview. Even if your opinion is controversial, or even if you simply hate a movie that everyone else loves, it makes you a solid, three-dimensional person. People are naturally drawn to those who are confident enough to disagree. It shows you have an internal world that isn't dependent on their approval. Substance creates magnetism. You also have to stop mothering the people in your life, especially your partners. If your partner is moody or having a bad day, let them be moody. You do not need to do a frantic song and dance to fix their energy or make them smile. When you try to manage everyone's emotions, you are essentially saying that you cannot handle their discomfort, so you are going to exhaust yourself to change their state. This creates a soul tie that feels more like a parent-child dynamic than a romantic one. Let the silence sit. If he is grumpy, that is a him problem, not a you project. By stepping back, you give them the space to be a grown adult, and you give yourself the peace of not being an emotional janitor. We need to talk about the word no. For the good girl, no feels like a crime. You feel like you owe the world an explanation for your existence. But you have to realize that no is a full sentence. You do not need a medical certificate to say you are not coming to the party. You do not need to explain that you are tired because you worked 10 hours and your feet hurt and you haven't slept well. No, I can't make it is enough. Every time you over-explain, you are bleeding out your power. You are essentially asking for permission to have a boundary. Stop asking. Just state the boundary and move on. Another trap is the orbiting phase. So many women, the moment they get into a relationship, start to orbit the man like he is the sun. Suddenly, his hobbies are your hobbies. He likes golf, you're buying clubs. He likes niche war documentaries, suddenly you're an expert on 1942. You are losing your own gravity. Stop being the moon to his sun. Be your own star. Have a life that he has to fit into, rather than a life that disappears the moment he arrives. The space between two people, the fact that you have a life he doesn't fully understand or control, is exactly where attraction and respect live. If you are always there, always watching him, always doing what he does, there is nothing left for him to be curious about. When you finally start implementing these changes and stop performing the good girl character, something scary will happen. Some people are going to leave your life. They might get angry, they might call you selfish, or they might just drift away. Let them. The people who leave are the ones who were only there because you were useful to them. They didn't love you. They loved your lack of boundaries. The people who stay, however, are the ones who actually respect you as an individual. This is the natural filtration system of life. It's painful at first, but it is the only way to clear out the weeds and make room for people who will treat you like the prize you are. Finally, understand that choosing yourself doesn't require a theatrical announcement. You don't need to post a manifesto of my new self on your Instagram story. You don't need to send a long text to the guy you're dating telling him that, from now on, things are changing. In fact, please don't do that. True power is quiet. Just start choosing yourself in the small, mundane moments. Choose the meal you actually want to eat. Choose the dress you like, even if it's too much. Choose to stay home when you are tired. Choose your peace over their convenience. When you look at the women in history who actually changed things, or the women in your own life that you truly admire, were they the ones who were convenient? Probably not. They were the ones who stood their ground, who had opinions, and who weren't afraid to be a little bit difficult if it meant staying true to themselves. History is not made by people who fit in. It is made by people who are brave enough to be a bit of a problem. Being nice is a prison you built for yourself out of a fear of being disliked. But the truth is, people pleasers are rarely actually liked. They are just used. Real likability and real love come from being a sovereign being. You cannot give from an empty vessel, and you cannot be loved for who you are if you are constantly pretending to be who they want. Go out there and be inconvenient. Be a little bit of a mystery. Be the woman who respects herself so much that others have no choice but to follow suit. I love you, but it's time to stay unbothered.